Firstly, I begin these acknowledging that we are over 100 episodes strong. Officially, this is 100, 101, 101. Does it make it 101 or is this 100? Anyway, we're there, okay? But I just want to say thanks for being here for the whole journey. You guys are legends. It's been beautiful. I know that you guys have listened. I mean, imagine us when I started this episode, or should I say when I started this whole podcast, that we would come in at Spotify as one of their top marathon listened to shows. I did not, but thank you. But let's move on. Let's talk about photography events because I am fresh back from one. As you might hear in my voice, I'm tired. Down in that big old smoke of London, the international travel hub. And I'll be honest, I felt the room was quiet. Not intimate, not exclusive, just quiet. And before anyone goes clutching their pearls, this is not a drag. It's not bitterness. I showed up. I delivered. I partied. I actually partied. Bit weird to dance to so many acoustic versions of some rock music, but it was pretty cool all the same. And I'd probably do it again. But it made me ask myself a slightly bigger question because I think our industry is avoiding it. Are photography events dying, or are we quietly killing them by not turning up? I kind of think it's yeah. But then equally, going on Facebook particularly, people are simultaneously moaning that the industry feels disconnected, repetitive, gate kept down, there's no fun zone, there's no real community anymore. See, that's the contradiction I see every time. Photographers say they feel isolated, that they feel like there's so much toxicity on like Instagram. They say online education is recycled nonsense. And they say no one talks honestly anymore. Well, obviously, they're obviously not listening to this podcast because we all know that's a thing we do here. So when something exists offline in the real world with real humans, actual conversations, actual disagreements, because they're brilliant, you can learn from them. And just nuance, we don't go. So today I'm talking about why not attending events is actually hurting your career, why all events are not created equal, and that frustration is incredibly valid. What genuinely stops photographers from going to one right now, and why organisers need to do better, and while I still believe events matter enough to fight for. Because if events don't attract new eyes, new voices, and new blood, they won't survive. And yes, full transparency, before anyone accuse me of some ulterior motives, I am speaking at the photography and video show at the NEC this year in March. I'll talk about that later, but this episode is not an advert, it's a reality check, okay? So let's talk about reality first. So I was at the SWPP event in London. It had problems and there was not structural, like crazy stuff like that. I think for me, when you look at it, listening to the photographers I was talking about, January is a tough time for people financially. Christmas has just happened, New Year, and it happens in January. It has every year, so you can plan your year. But I do think the financial burden is getting quite heavy on people right now, and it's a problem. Okay. I'm not saying this isn't the only reason, but I know when I was talking to people in the bar, I was listening to some of them and they were saying, it is in January, it's a little bit pricey. The hotel's a little pricey. It's Wednesday to Saturday, which means like I might have to take time off or arrange things. Traveling to London's pricey because of rail costs and hotel costs and basically just living crisis, right? And a bit of a burnout moment going on. These things matter. London is expensive. January's grim as hell. Midweek travel means time off work. Hotels often cost more than any ticket you're buying, and photographers are already stretched thin. So if you're sitting there thinking, I wanted to go but couldn't justify it, it doesn't make you lazy. It makes you realistic. But there are ways where we need to separate understandable reasons from comfortable habits, because while they can be reasons you don't go, those are the ones that I was like, okay, expected to hear those. Not a lot of people had said this, but they're the ones I expect to hear. But again, this roadshow or this social this event has always, as far as I'm aware, been in this time of year. So if you wanted to go, I guess you have 12 months to plan for it. Okay. What we are becoming quite good at is staying at home and somehow thinking it's a strategy and then whinging there's not enough out there for us. So why are we not going to events? I think it's money, one of the big ones. Talking to people, listening to those people. And I'm not talking about tickets because it's not just the ticket price. I want to say though, the societies is really like the ticket to the general entry, I think was free. Am I right? If you're a pro photographer, free. Well, there was another prize involved. But anyway, why don't I remember this? I could have Googled this. I was literally talking about it, but you know what? My brain is a mush because I have got back from it yesterday and I'll be honest, I'm tired. I'm overworked and tired. But it's not just a ticket price. There's train, fuel, hotel, food, time away from paid work. Events are no longer just an educational decision. You kind of have to make a gamble financially. And organisers, I do think, have to acknowledge that. And I'm not just talking about please understand, I'm not throwing the SOPP under the bus here at all. I'm talking this a broad sweeping one. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I was literally at an event, okay? And there was some of this was being stuff, okay? There is something that does come up, and I see this across the board with a lot of shows. So it's not just at one specific show. I need to reiterate that. So we can all be adults and acknowledge I'm talking about lots of other shows. It often feels like it's the same stuff every year. And I have heard this come up a few times, be it whatever it is, a road show, an actual standalone show, anything. The same speakers doing the same topics with the same slides and the same recycled advice from 2016. If you've been in the industry more than 5 minutes, you've probably already heard something about finding your niche, raising your prices, being authentic. Which is ironic because I did touch on that a little bit in my talk. Just roasting myself. Well done, Khandie. You're doing really well. Thank you very much. I'm here all week. But I'll be honest, that fatigue is real. And there is some uncomfortable truth to acknowledge in that. I do think there is repetition. I do. I do think at times I have seen the same speaker talk at the same events, and every now and then may twist it and change it around. But I also have an issue with the quantity of stuff that's on there. Like sometimes I see people talking about things and I'll just do a quick check and I'll be like, you're not really talking about this, are you? Because you don't have experience, you're just blagging it. I do think sometimes we need to quality control talks. I know that one of the places I talk at, I have to send over at least a breakdown of what topics I'm going to cover and how I'm going to cover it, and what experience I've got to be able to talk about it. So yeah, I do think that. But at the same light, people complain about the repetitive nature, but then refuse to support events that even try to do something different. And I can't help but feel you can't demand innovation and then only show up for the familiar faces or the familiar names. It's like, oh, okay, so you whinged it wasn't different and then you just did the same. It makes no sense to me. But I'm seeing that. And I remember being sat in the bar and someone was saying, oh, I didn't want to go to this one because it was exactly the same as the last one I went to. And I was looked at him and went, what do you mean? So I just so happened to have the old show thing. And I was like, what was the same? And they're like, this. I went, no, it wasn't. It was different. No, but it's slightly different. No, it was different. And I think people kind of assume because they see the same name of speaker, they're just going to get the same content. You're not. I would like to think no one is putting on the same content every year. I feel like you should be asking your speakers to deliver something different if they are coming back. But yeah, but I notice that people, even if when they do something different, people are still something going, yeah, but you can't appeal to everybody. I know this. I know. And you do need familiar people to get people to be interested. But for me, I feel like we do need to recognize now that times are getting tougher out there and we have to do a lot more. And one of the big problems, I think, with trade shows is that online education has trained us that we can learn from home. We've been conditioned to believe if it's not available on demand, like we can't go to YouTube or we can't go to all the other places, it's just not worth it. And they just think, oh, I want to know about headshots. I'll just watch loads of videos. Okay, cool. But if you don't go to events, right, and you don't go for events, you don't know the other things you're missing out on because they're not just for information. You go for context, you go for debate, you go for disagreement because I think we should have discussions. You go for nuance, networking, serendipity. Had I not gone to the event that I went to, the societies, a brand who were interested in me wouldn't have come and met me and said, right, we need to have a meeting next week, right? Had I not gone to the societies event, I would have met with all my friends and reconnected with them, and now I'm going off to Bergen. Had I not gone there, I wouldn't have danced with my shoes off and had a really good time. Do you know what I mean? Like, if anything, it was just so nice to be with people who understand what it's like to be self-employed, but self-employed in a creative world and self-employed when like AI is snapping at our feet and stuff. Yeah. And it was also, that brings me to the other point. It's so nice to just belong somewhere. Like a lot of photographers don't go because they feel like they don't belong and they think everyone else is more successful. Everyone else knows everyone. They'll feel stupid or judged. I don't think that's a marketing problem. I do think that's an industry culture thing and a bit of an imposter syndrome going on. And yes, there are events I think have contributed to that over the years. But honestly, the societies, in the past I've spoken about them on my YouTube channel and I've always felt like there was something lacking there. But it's a bit different being the speaker this year. And I felt like, if I'm going to whinge about it, I need to put my money where my mouth is essentially and go and speak there. I saw a different side to it. The people who came to my classes, the two I did, were engaged, confident with me. They spoke me. They took all my books I had, my notebooks. I felt really good being there, right? Really good. The people that I met. Were the classes rammed? No. But nobody's class seemed to be rammed. None of them are, like, from what I understand. And I remember being stood and I'd watched the footfall, and I think there was a lesser footfall, which was really sad. That noticeably traders weren't there. I'm not slagging this show off, because what I saw, I think people learned from. And it was just sad that no one else felt the need to go. And it was fresh this year. There was new things. But why aren't people attending? And I think this is a bit people don't want to hear. When you don't attend events, you lose perspective. Online discourse flattens everything. And at events, you can hear opposing views in the same room. You can see discussions. You can understand nuances. You can talk to people. You can chat to people and discuss things. And you realize that the industry isn't a monolith. You're actually having you can have just going for the discussions. You can hear my voice is going. That's how tired I am. There was opportunities, like I spoke about the brand, yeah. So for me, I got to meet people I haven't seen in ages. I got to talk about maybe we could collab and stuff. There's talks of jobs, collaborations, referrals. I got someone else approached me and said, "Hey, would you be able to speak at our event?" Yes, I would. Though, I know from some of these events that, well, let's talk about the photography and video show I did a few years ago. Last year, sorry, I was offered a book deal, and I turned it down, as we know, because I went on to self-publish instead. But do you know what? Had I not been at the phone video show, I wouldn't have done that, and it wouldn't have put the little thing in my head to write my book. Top seller on Amazon, by the way, just so you know. A little bit of a plug there. You wouldn't have built brand relationships. They don't usually come in from cold DMs to them. They come from conversations. I also think it gives you visibility. If you want to be seen as someone who knows what they're talking about, seen as an authority, you can't remain permanently invisible. No one elevates you if they don't know you exist. And that includes showing up even if it's uncomfortable. And there's also the age-old influence. When good people don't show up, bad ideas dominate. And I think there's a big thing that's happening at the moment in the industry. There's a lot of bad behaviors that are being accepted, or should I say ignored, or allowed to persist in the interest of not rocking the boat. And that's because people who stand up for the good side or the right side, whatever you want to say, they're not going. If you don't want influencer nonsense, exploitative practices, or some AI hype taking over the stage, then people with actual ethics, experience, and expertise need to be in the room. They do. Okay? We need you in the room, honey. You need you in the room. Now, not all events are equal, and I think that matters. I'm not here to gaslight anybody. Some events are out of touch. Like, for example, I got asked to speak at an event. It was a total of 6 hours driving for me, there and back. And they were like, "Yeah, we don't pay anything. There's no expenses, but they sell tickets." I was a bit like, I'm sorry. That's not cool. That's not cool for me. Um, some events don't evolve. They don't have diverse speakers. They don't attract new audiences, and they don't market effectively. They just assume that because they do a few shares on Facebook, that'll get tickets. They think if they pull out the same person every time, we'll all be excited. But after a time, we get bored of it. We get wise to it, right? If it's like sometimes you go to shows, and there's not really anyone particular I'm pulling on this, because they've all kind of at times, I'm sure, had a bit of it. Um, where they kind of just have the same speaker coming up. I will say, I don't think that's happened at the photo video show, actually. I take that back. But some shows, some of the smaller shows, you've seen it, they have the same people all the time. And you can't attract new audiences if they go to the show and it's this person speaking exactly what they spoke about the previous time. You've got to show new stuff. And then if an event only ever attracts the same aging demographic, it will die. That's not an insult, that's maths. If your demographic is aging and you are not getting newer people in, this is horrible to say this, but as your demographic dies off, so will your event. Events have to speak to new photographers, address current realities, talk about money honestly, talk about burnout honestly, talk about AI, ethics, gatekeeping, and power. And I'm going to talk about money quite quickly, because during one of my talks, we were talking, and a member of the audience spoke up and asked me a question about finances and stuff. And I don't gatekeep anything. And I realized there are very few people talking about finances at photo shows, you know? Like talking about how to do your accounts. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing to have? You might go, "Oh, that's really boring." No, we had a great debate in the question time in my room after the chat I'd done about finances, about limited companies, about the VAT threshold, about what you can claim on your taxes. We spoke about it. And I realized that we do need to speak about it. And if people don't talk about all this stuff, people won't come. And I'm gonna tell you, I don't think they should. I don't think you should go to an event that doesn't inspire you, that doesn't speak to you, that doesn't reflect the photography industry as a whole or even a part of it well. For me, yeah. So what do events need to do better? Ugh. Okay, my opinion. If events want to survive, here's some tough love, as they say. I think better timing. Better timing. And most of them are okay, but I remember there's one event that happens on a Tuesday and it finishes on a Thursday. It's like a midweek event, and I don't think it's running now. Actually, maybe I need to take that back. I don't think it's running now. But I was like, who does that? Who can take time midweek? Like, transparent value as well. What you're going to get, how you're going to get it. And something that I think the photo video show do very well is marketing. They've really got a different type of marketing this year, and I've noticed it more and more. Stronger marketing. I think if you want people to go there, you have to do stronger marketing. Be that video testimonies from people who've attended, feedback forms that you can use as copy. Definitely need to do stronger marketing more than ever to convince people to come out of their safe places, of their studios and their homes, to travel to where you want them to travel to do their thing. I also think you need clear audience targeting, like know exactly who you're doing and less of this hero worship. So often people lord up one speaker or do one thing. I just think you should just be having interviews with all of them, not the golden few, all of them, because honestly, they're the people who are there making conversations, giving your event context. So and content, you should be interviewing them if you're going to interview anyone, all of them. And I think you need to stop selling weekends, or sort of say these events as weekends of inspiration. I would say they're like career interventions, and stop assuming loyalty will equal attendance because it doesn't anymore. It doesn't. I remember going to an event and it was empty. Well, no, not no, that's wrong. It wasn't empty. It was very woefully low on numbers. I saw people on the stands nodding off. Why are you not nodding off, sort of phasing out? And I was disappointed because I had high hopes for this one, and I was walking around, and I've done a YouTube video on it. It doesn't need to be mentioned again who it was, but I was like, "Huh? Like, come on now," you know? But why do I still say yes to events? Because I love going to events. One, I enjoy reviewing them. When I do reviews, people can get really narky with me on these. I review events in the fact that, A, as a punter, can I justify spending 70 quid coming to see this? Do I get 70 quid's worth, in my opinion, back without having to pay for anything additional, like extra class or anything like that? Do I get? And if the answer is no, I'm going to feed it back because not everybody is it the right frame where they've got £600-700 spare to go on the additional courses. Yeah. If you're putting a cost on that ticket should have the value of that back to me, okay? Not saying I'm gonna be completely and utterly blown away every time, but I should be able to find something that justifies it, all right? Equally, when been to a show, it's been amazing. I struggle really hard to find bad, if there is a bad thing. And I have in the time done that. I have done it. And be it, if you're gonna have a professional lounge away from everybody, don't put it in the middle of the room. Because then we look like a fishbowl and everybody's, like, talking to us. But I still speak at events. I still go to events, although I'm not sure my voice is gonna hold up much longer. And that's why I'm saying yes, because I still wanna show up because I want these spaces to survive. And it's like the reason, right? Why am I speaking at the photo and video show at the NEC in Birmingham in March, just like I did at the societies, and I'm doing a few others? Because it does attract new blood. Because my clientele, the people who engage with me on my socials, who follow what I do, are different. They are younger, they are older, they're a real mix. I think that's really good to have a connection when you go to speak at these events. You make sure you market it to your people, right? Because that'll bring them to the event, which means you'll be more inclined to be at the event to speak again, but also they're joining potentially the societies or the bib, or they're joining the photo and video show. And it means that their presence is going to help keep these shows going. I think it does need to attract students at some point and early career creatives, because catch them now while they're still learning and you could be their go-to person. I think bringing photography and video together is a very clever of the photography and video show, and they're doing really, really well. Again, they also have a student day there, so they're doing it well. I think it's one we can learn from. People, I think people would like me to stop turning up. I think sometimes. I think they would like it because the conversation I have aren't always comfortable with people. The things I talk about on my topics, when I'm it's not always comfortable to hear. But I feel like the whole reason I started writing my books, why I started this podcast, is to have those uncomfortable conversations, talk about things, and and give back to a community. And that's what I think I'm doing. I hope I'm doing. So yes, I am going to still say yes to events who will have me. I just think they're noticeably getting quieter as in attendance. And if photo events die, it won't be because of TikTok or some weird algorithm. It will be because they haven't evolved, but also we as the punters are not engaging, and yet we'll win. There's not something for us to do. And both can be true at the same time. If you want better events, you got to support the good ones, give feedback to the ones that don't impress you, and show up when you can, and stop expecting change without participation. You have to be involved. I saw when I was looking at the sites and Colin said, "Hey, would you do a talk?" I was like, "I'm not so sure. I know how I've said stuff, and I better stand by what I said about the show." So I thought, you know what, put your money where your mouth is. Offer something new. I honestly thought on the days I had my talk, because I'm not very active in the society's Facebook group. I am a bit, but I mean like no more than I normally am. I put a few posts out about what I was doing, people got involved. I thought I maybe have 2 or 3 people max in my masterclasses, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna look really bad." But no, I had people who loved my first one who came back for my second one. I mean, that was fantastic. People got my books, I got claps and cheers, and which is on my YouTube. I've recorded them. Got to put the second one up actually. I just think staying home has become too easy for us. At home education has become too easy for us. Building an industry worthy of being a part of it is not done at home. It's done showing up and being present. I hope you go to a show. And now, if you want to catch me, then my next one is at the photo and video show. But you need to go to more shows. You need to go. It's so good for yourself. I loved going to the sites. I did have a little bit of apprehension. I did. But I'm glad I went. I really am glad I went. So this episode has rattled you good. I want to hear from you. Message me at the Loud Lens. Tell me what's stopping you from going for events. It'd be a good discussion if I'm honest. What would make you attend more? And if you're coming to the NEC show, please, please, please come say hello. Maybe we could do a meetup. These events and this industry only survives the moment we stop ghosting it. So don't be like the weird Tinder date ghosts immediately. And I'll see you next time, hopefully at an event. And if not, on my YouTube channel. So make sure you like, subscribe, and go everywhere I am, and we'll catch you all soon.